All right, everyone, now we have to talk about NPR because they just suspended a dissident journal for criticizing them, and I was under the impression, isn't NPR partially funded by taxpayers? It's interesting that they wouldn't be able to deal with basic bitch criticism from within their own firm then. I'm going to read some of this verbatim. NPR suspends veteran editor as it grapples with his public criticism. NPR has formally punished Yuri Berliner, the senior editor who publicly argued a week ago that the network had lost America's trust by approaching news stories with a rigidly progressive mindset. Well, yeah, no shit. I mean, NPR is basically what you put on in the car when you're driving around and there's nothing on any good radio station. Oh my god, there's no AC/DC today? Well, I guess it's NPR. You know, they'll talk about, the African tea etiquette or something like that, something that's kind of hipsterish. It can be interesting, admittedly, sometimes. But much of the time it's artsy-fartsy bullshit, and then, please buy our overpriced NPR mug and help keep us on the air and stuff like that. Berliner's 5-day suspension without pay, which began last Friday, has not been previously reported. Yet the public radio network is grappling in other ways with the fallout from Berliner's essay for the online news site The Free Press. It angered many of his colleagues, led NPR leaders to announce monthly internal reviews of the network's coverage, and gave fresh ammunition to conservative and partisan Republican critics of NPR, including former President Donald Trump. Oh God, you opened up a can of worms. Oh shit. Conservative activist Christopher Rufo is among those now targeting NPR's new chief executive, Catherine Maher, for messages she posted to social media years before joining the network. Among them, those posts include a 2020 tweet that called Trump racist and another that appeared to minimize rioting during social justice protests that year. Maher took the job at NPR last month, her first at a news organization. In a statement Monday about the messages she had posted, Maher praised the integrity of NPR's journalists and underscored the independence of their reporting. Well, they're not. Clearly they're not doing independent reporting. If somebody comes out and says there's systemic bias at NPR, they get suspended without pay. That doesn't sound like uncritical or unbiased reporting. I mean, it sounds more like, it's a inside group sort of thing. We've got an ironclad message, a certain hammer to hit people with, and you've got to wield that hammer only in one direction. You are not allowed to criticize your own company. Normally you don't criticize your workplace, admittedly. But, for a supposedly independent news organization that, at least in public, prides itself, it states this to the public, that it's independent and everyone has latitude, they can say what they want, we believe in free expression. When you punish somebody for using that free expression, isn't that a little bit on the nose? I think that it is. NPR will probably suffer a partial collapse as a result of this. Thankfully, you can always pony up more taxpayer money to prop them up, so it's not the same as normal corporate legacy media. There, normally the favor peddling is, hey, you got money for this politician, he's really happy for you. And so he'll come on a couple interview slots and, you boost your ratings or something. With NPR, it's more direct. Again, there are some interesting things on National Public Radio, not gonna lie. I've listened to them before, and, they have certain, they have academics on there for interviews and stuff like that, and sometimes it's entertaining. But when you're punishing this particular journalist simply for criticizing the company and saying, look, we have a systemic bias at this company, it's effectively institutional. It's not just, we happen to have hired people with a certain proclivity. It's more like it's understood that the company from the top down has certain views. And by the way, here's the incoming CEO saying crazy shit about the George Floyd riots and stuff like that. Well, wouldn't that speak to systemic non-journalism? As in there's a bias at the particular network? NPR will rant all day about Fox News having a conservative bias. Yes, of course, at least in the neocon sense, of course they do. They've leaned off into Republican la-la land now since inception. This is something everyone's aware of. MSNBC quite clearly has a small d, a Democratic Party bias. And a lot of the commentators there are leftoids. Hell, they go beyond most of the Democrats sometimes. This is known. Why can NPR not look in the mirror and understand that it too suffers from the same thing? It's hilarious. Well, we're independent journalists. We're not like those corporate networks. Yes, you are. It is intrinsic. Anytime that you end up with a company, the people at the top are going to influence the people at the bottom, especially within the realm of human communication. If you're doing anything that's political at all, there's always going to be a bias. If I own a company, for example, do you think that I want to hire people that are going to use my company and its money, its productive capacity, to try to prop up, left-wing causes? No, of course not. I would never permit it to happen if I was able to not permit it to happen, because I don't support those causes. I'd sit there and say, I don't know exactly what you're doing with this fundraising thing here, but I don't want my brand associated with it. I wouldn't allow that. NPR is run by liberals. Well, then naturally they're going to enforce that line. Look at what they're doing to Yuri Berliner. Suspending him without pay because he decided to write a piece about how NPR has a problem that it needs to address. Normally, by the way, NPR would be the first to jump down someone's throat if a corporation did this, fossil fuel company or anything like that, and they punished some senior manager for expressing dismay at some company policy or saying that there was a systemic workplace of harassment and intolerance, or there were sexual assaults there and it was a man's man club and the secretaries were all being harassed or something. They would be the first one to report on it uncritically and say that person's basically a whistleblower. But when it's aimed at their own company, at their own firm, I won't say, no, not really a company, it's sort of a public broadcasting network, so like PBS, I suppose, then they can't even look in the mirror. They can't admit to it. They have to punish him. Very hypocritical. Very, very sad. That's about all. Peace out.